On the first stormy night of summer, when thunder split the sky wide open, no one understood why a massive thunder-shy dog suddenly broke through the door and charged into the pouring rain. But minutes later, what he dragged back left the entire family frozen in disbelief, a tiny life on the edge of death, carrying a mystery the wild had never meant for humans to see. The first summer storm of the season rolled across Red Valley with a kind of fury the locals always feared. The sky had turned a bruised purple, thick with swollen clouds ready to burst, and thunder traveled down the canyon walls like the deep groan of something ancient waking up. Inside the Turner family ranch house, everything rattled. Windows, picture frames, even the old air conditioner that wheezed through every heat wave. But nothing reacted harder than Brutus. The massive livestock guardian dog squeezed himself beneath the kitchen table, all 150 pounds of him trembling at each crack of thunder. His fur, usually thick and proud, looked shrunken against his body. He hated storms, always had. Lightning made him flinch, thunder made him whine, and the rising smell of wet dirt drifting in from the canyon made him pace circles until someone shushed him gently. Tonight was worse than usual. The air outside had that sharp metallic scent that always came before a flash flood. Even the cattle had gone silent. Jenna Turner, 17 and barefoot on the old tile floor, crouched beside Brutus and tried scratching behind his ears. The wind banged a loose shutter against the house, and Brutus flinched so hard he nearly knocked her over. "Hey, big guy," she whispered. "It's just a little summer rain, not the end of the world." But she knew, everyone in Red Valley knew, that summer storms out here weren't just rain. They were walls of water. They were fast-moving nightmares that swept down canyons, destroying everything unlucky enough to stand in their path. Her grandpa used to call them nature's version of a high-risk, high-reward investment, one that no insurance could cover. Another thunderclap boomed. Brutus lifted his head sharply, ears perked. He froze, not trembling, not whining, listening. Jenna sat up straighter. "What is it?" Brutus shifted out from under the table, nose quivering as if catching something only he could sense. He walked toward the back door, hesitating every few steps, but drawn by something stronger than fear. The rain hit the roof like handfuls of gravel as Jenna followed him, confused. When Brutus reached the door, he nudged it with his head. Then again, harder. A low, urgent sound rumbled from deep in his chest, not fear this time, but distress. Jenna frowned. Brutus, no, not in this weather. But the dog kept nudging, pacing, scratching at the wooden frame with growing desperation. Thunder cracked overhead, making the whole house vibrate, but he didn't back away. Not this time. Something outside had replaced his fear with purpose. Then Jenna heard it. A sound thinner than a kitten's cry, swallowed almost immediately by the heavy rain. A high, brittle squeak, like metal scraping metal, or a hinge crying in the wind. But alive. It came again, faint but unmistakable, drifting from the direction of the ravine behind the house. Jenna's breath caught. "Grandpa, something's out there." Mr. Turner appeared with a flashlight and a worried crease across his brow. "You sure?" Brutus answered for her. He threw his weight into the door, claws scraping the floor. And then, before either of them could grab him, the old latch slipped from Jenna's hand. The door flew open, slammed against the siding, and a blast of wind sent rain knifing into the kitchen. Brutus shot out like a bolt of white and tan lightning, swallowed instantly by the storm-dark yard. "Brutus!" Jenna yelled, already pulling her boots on with shaking hands. Mr. Turner tried to grab her arm, but she slipped free, shouting over the wind. He's terrified of storms. He wouldn't run unless something's really wrong. The man knew she was right. That dog wouldn't leave the shelter of a roof unless something out there mattered more than his own panic. And right now, whatever was crying out in the ravine must have been on the edge of life and death. They stepped out onto the porch, shielding their faces against the sideways rain. Lightning flashed white across the canyon, a single violent snapshot of the land they depended on and feared in equal measure. In that split second of brightness, they spotted Brutus sprinting toward the ravine trail, disappearing down the muddy slope like the storm had swallowed him whole. Jenna's pulse hammered. "We have to go after him." Mr. Turner hesitated only a moment before grabbing a raincoat and the emergency radio. "Stay close. Flash floods come fast. This canyon's a dangerous place in a storm." But even as they started down the path, the truth settled cold and heavy in Jenna's chest. They were already late. Brutus was faster, braver than he'd ever been before, and the thing he'd heard, the thing she barely heard, had sounded like it was fading. Something small, something helpless, something that shouldn't have been out in a storm built like this. Jenna didn't know what waited in that ravine. She didn't know that tonight's storm would change their lives forever. She only knew one thing. Brutus wasn't running from fear anymore. He was running toward something, and whatever he dragged back would defy everything they thought they understood about the wild. The rain came down so hard, it felt like the sky was emptying an entire ocean onto Red Valley. Each drop slapped against Jenna's raincoat with a force that made her shoulders tense. She and her grandfather pushed their way down the trail, mud pulling at their boots like hands trying to drag them backward. The flashlight beam bounced wildly with every step, its thin cone of light swallowed almost instantly by the storm. Somewhere ahead of them, Brutus was nothing more than a blur swallowed by the darkness, following that strange, fragile cry. "Stay close," Mr. Turner shouted over the roar of the storm. The wind tore his voice apart, but Jenna nodded. She was already soaked through, hair plastered to her cheeks, heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. She kept thinking about what her grandpa had told her for years. Flash floods don't care how smart you are, how strong you are, or how good your insurance policy is. When the water comes, it comes like a freight train. Thunder cracked again, so loud it felt like a tree had split in half right beside them. Jenna stumbled, catching herself on a yucca plant before spilling down the steep part of the trail. Mr. Turner gripped her arm and pointed with the flashlight. "There," he yelled. The canyon below had transformed from a quiet, dry wash into a raging river of red mud. Water churned through the narrow path with violent force, carrying branches, rocks, and debris. And there, halfway down the slope, just at the edge of the flooding ravine, was Brutus. His fur was soaked and heavy, hanging off him in thick clumps as he leaned forward, barking toward something below the waterline. "Brutus!" Jenna cried, but the dog didn't even turn his head. He was locked onto whatever was trapped below. Then she heard it again, a cry, thin, choked, desperate. But now it sounded weaker, much weaker. Brutus lunged down the last few feet, sliding in the mud and nearly falling into the water. Jenna gasped as he dug his paws in, claws scraping rock. That's when she saw it, just barely visible between the rolling waves of red water and tangled roots. A tiny body, covered in mud, wedged against a fallen branch. At first, Jenna thought it was a bobcat, but as the flashlight beam steadied on it, her breath caught in her chest. It was a mountain lion cub, a real one, no bigger than a loaf of bread. Its fur, gold under all that mud, clung to its little ribs. Its head bobbed weakly as the current kept hammering its side. The cub tried to lift a paw, but the water slapped it down again. One more big surge, and it would be gone. "Oh, my Lord," Mr. Turner whispered. "It's just a baby." Before either of them could react, Brutus threw himself into the flood. "Brutus!" Jenna screamed, her voice cracking. The dog was swallowed instantly up to his chest. The current slammed into him hard enough to push his whole body sideways. He scrabbled for footing, muscles shaking, beneath the weight of the water. Jenna could see how terrified he was. His ears pinned back, eyes wide. But he still forced himself forward, step by agonizing step. Lightning flashed, illuminating the scene for a single breathtaking second. The cub, limp and helpless. The coyote on the ridge, watching with hungry eyes. And Brutus, massive and trembling, inching closer to the sinking shape. The dog let out a desperate bark and lunged. His jaws closed gently around the cub's scruff. And for one terrible moment, Jenna thought the current would sweep them both down the canyon. Brutus lost his footing, his back legs dragged under by the force of the flood. "Hold on," Jenna shouted without thinking, as if the dog could hear her over the storm. But Brutus did hold on. With a strength that didn't make any sense for an animal so terrified of thunder, he pushed off the riverbed, heaved his body sideways, and clawed his way toward the bank. Mud flew in thick sprays as he dug for purchase. The coyote darted closer, sensing opportunity, but a furious snarl ripped from Brutus's throat, a warning steeped in pure instinct. The predator hesitated. One more heave, one more desperate scramble, and Brutus hauled himself up onto higher ground, dragging the cub with him. He collapsed onto his side, chest heaving, the little mountain lion pressed to his neck. The cub didn't move, didn't cry, didn't even shiver. Jenna reached them first, dropping to her knees. Rain soaked the cub's tiny body until it looked more like a piece of driftwood than a living creature. Brutus curled protectively around it, refusing to let Jenna touch it at first, his growl soft but scared. Only when Mr. Turner knelt beside them did the dog finally ease back enough for them to see the tiny face. Its eyes were closed. Its breathing, if it was breathing at all, was a faint flutter. "Oh, sweetheart," Jenna whispered. "Please don't give up." Brutus nudged the cub with his nose, whining a low, broken sound. He didn't understand the danger, the medical urgency, or the fact that a wild animal might not survive even with miracle-level home safety care. He just knew it was small, helpless, and fading. "Let's get back to the house," Mr. Turner said, voice tight. "Now." Thunder rolled across the canyon again, but Brutus didn't flinch anymore. He stood, gathered the cub carefully in his jaws, and turned uphill toward home, moving with a purpose Jenna had never seen in him before. Whatever had called him into the storm, he wasn't willing to leave behind. Brutus reached the porch with the little mountain lion cub hanging motionless from his jaws, the storm still pounding the valley as if the sky wanted to wash the whole world away. Jenna sprinted ahead, threw the back door open, and grabbed every towel she could reach. Water dripped off the dog in heavy sheets, forming a muddy trail across the hardwood floor. Brutus wasn't normally allowed inside during storms. He shed too much, tracked in dirt, and panicked at the sound of thunder. But tonight, none of the old rules mattered. What he carried in his mouth changed everything. "Bring him here," Jenna urged, spreading a towel across the living room rug. Her voice shook even though she tried to sound calm. Brutus stepped forward hesitantly, lowering his massive head until the cub touched the towel. The little body rolled slightly, far too limp, far too still. Jenna's breath caught. She had expected crying, struggling, at least a shiver. but nothing came. Mr. Turner knelt beside her, flashlight still clipped to his belt. The emergency generator hummed softly in the background, keeping the lights alive while the storm raged outside. "Easy, sweetheart," he murmured, touching the cub gently with two weathered fingers. The fur was soaked straight to the skin, colder than anything that should have been out in a summer storm. He's almost frozen stiff. Jenna wrapped another towel around the little creature, careful not to squeeze too hard. She'd seen orphaned kittens before, taken in strays, bottle-fed newborn farm animals. But this was different. This was a wild predator. A baby born to cliffs and high ledges, now lying silent in her lap. Brutus hovered over her shoulder, panting anxiously. Every time thunder cracked, he flinched, but he didn't back away from the cub. He leaned in, nudging its side, whining in small, desperate whimpers. The cub still didn't respond. Jenna swallowed hard. "Grandpa, he's not breathing right." As if on cue, the cub's tiny chest fluttered once, then nothing. No steady rise, no warmth, no sign of strength. Just a faint, fading twitch. "Get Dr. Hale on the phone," Mr. Turner said sharply. Jenna scrambled for the landline. Cell service always died in storms like this, and dialed the veterinarian's emergency number. It rang so long she thought it might go to voicemail. But finally, his tired voice answered. "Turner residence? You folks all right?" "Not exactly," Jenna said. We found something in the ravine. A baby mountain lion. He's half drowned, cold. He's barely breathing." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. When Dr. Hale finally spoke, his voice was grim. "A mountain lion cub that small won't survive long in water like that. Keep him warm. Towels, heating pad if you've got one. I'll drive out there, but the roads are flooding. It might take time." Time. She hated that word. Storms didn't care about time. Babies, born in the wild, didn't understand time. And this cub, this tiny, helpless thing, looked like he had almost none left. She hung up and ran to fetch the heating pad from the hall closet, the one her grandpa used for his bad back. The power dipped once, lights flickering, but the generator caught again. She plugged the pad in and set it to low, placing it beneath the towels. The cub's body felt heavier now, almost leaden, like the storm had squeezed the life straight out of him. When she touched his tiny paw, it didn't curl or pull away. Brutus let out a broken whine, pushing his nose against the cub's head, breathing warm air over its ear. Jenna couldn't tell if the dog understood what was happening, or if he just sensed the same dread building in her chest. "Come on, little guy," she whispered. "You made it this far. Don't quit now." Mr. Turner dried the cub's fur as gently as he could, but it didn't help much. The little chest fluttered again, barely a movement at all, and then went still. Jenna froze. "Grandpa?" He didn't answer right away. His weathered hand rested on the cub's side, feeling for breath, for heartbeat, for anything. The old man's eyes softened, and he exhaled through his nose in the quiet way he always did when something broke his heart. "Oh, sweetheart," he murmured. "He's fading." Brutus barked sharply, once, then pushed himself between them and nudged the cub again, more urgently this time. It wasn't aggression, it was pleading. The huge dog lowered himself until his entire body curled around the towels, chin pressed against the cub's back, as though he believed he could shield the little creature from whatever darkness was closing in. Thunder rolled again, loud enough to shake the walls, but Brutus didn't move. Jenna wiped her eyes. She wasn't supposed to feel this attached already. Not to a wild animal, not to a mountain lion that might someday endanger livestock or even people. But none of that mattered in this moment. Not with that tiny body lying still and cold in front of her. Not with Brutus refusing to give up. "Should we do chest compressions?" she asked, her voice cracking. Mr. Turner shook his head. "He's too small. You'd do more harm than good." The cub's shallow breath stuttered once more, then stopped completely. Not a flutter, not a twitch, just silence. The kind of silence that felt final. Jenna covered her mouth. "No, no, please." Brutus whimpered, nudging the cub harder, licking its head with desperate strokes. His whole body trembled. He didn't understand death, but he understood absence. Understood the moment something warm turned cold, something alive turned still. Then slowly, Brutus lowered himself even further. He pressed his chest and stomach directly against the cub, as if trying to transfer every ounce of heat he had left. His breathing grew steady, deliberate, deep, like he was willing his own warmth into the lifeless little body. Mr. Turner watched with a mix of disbelief and grief. That dog. He's trying to save him the only way he knows. The heating pad hummed softly beneath them. The storm beat at the windows, and Brutus refused to move, not even an inch. Minutes passed. Long, heavy minutes. Jenna leaned close, barely daring to breathe. Then, just when she thought the world had gone silent for good, the cub twitched. Once, then again. A tiny, rasping squeak slipped from his throat. Weak, but unmistakably alive. Jenna gasped aloud. Mr. Turner's eyes widened. Brutus jerked his head up and let out a soft, relieved bark. It wasn't a miracle fueled by medicine or some expensive high-tech home treatment like people used for online health plans or home safety kits. It was something simpler, something older, something primal. Warmth, instinct, life refusing to let go. The tiny mountain lion was alive, barely, but alive. And Brutus, soaked and shivering, guarded him like the storm itself would have to fight the dog first to take the cub away again. The storm weakened just enough for the house to feel steady again, but the air inside remained thick with worry. The little mountain lion cub lay bundled in towels on the rug, barely breathing, a fragile ember that could go out with the slightest breeze. Brutus stayed pressed against him, his huge frame curved like a living shelter, as though he believed nothing in the world, not thunder, not floodwater, not fear, could touch the cub if he simply refused to move. His fur was still dripping, his belly cold from the storm. Yet he pushed every bit of remaining warmth toward the tiny body beneath him. Dr. Hale arrived 20 minutes later, soaked to the bone and carrying his medical bag in one hand, a lantern in the other. "You folks picked the worst storm of the summer to call me," he grumbled, though his eyes softened when he saw the scene in the living room. The old veterinarian knelt beside the cub, placing 2 gentle fingers against its small ribcage. He waited, felt, listened. Then he looked up at the family with a grim set to his mouth. "That little fella's hanging on by a thread," he said quietly. "His body temperature is dangerously low. Hypothermia will take a wild animal faster than hunger. Faster than dehydration, too. If he were any colder, even the best emergency care or pet insurance in the world couldn't save him." Jenna held her breath. Brutus didn't look away from the cub even for a second. Dr. Hale unzipped his bag and took out a small syringe. "Sugar water," he explained. "Sometimes just a few drops can kick their system into trying again. But he has to be strong enough to swallow. If he can't..." He didn't finish the sentence. His silence said enough. The vet tilted the cub's head and placed a single drop of warm sugar water on its tongue. The cub didn't react. Not a twitch, not a swallow. Its body remained limp, barely warmer than the towels around it. "Come on now," Dr. Hale whispered. "You fought through a flash flood. Don't stop fighting now." Brutus let out a soft whine and nudged the cub's side with his nose, as if urging him to listen. The vet tried a second drop. Again, nothing. The little lion's breaths were so faint, they might disappear any second. Jenna pressed a hand to her mouth. She had felt fear before. Storms, accidents on the ranch, bad news about rising mortgage rates, or credit score scams on TV that her grandpa always warned her about. But nothing compared to the fear of watching life slip away right in front of her, especially life that Brutus had risked everything to protect. Dr. Hale closed his bag with a slow exhale. "You did all you could. His best chance now is warmth and hope." Before anyone could respond, Brutus shifted. The massive dog gently pushed Jenna aside, not roughly, but with a determined, deliberate insistence. He lowered his body directly onto the heating pad and then pulled the cub closer with his chin until the tiny creature was pressed to the warmest part of his belly. Brutus settled his weight carefully, breathing slow and deep, as if he understood that even the rhythm of his heartbeat mattered. "Let him try," Dr. Hale murmured, nodding toward the dog. "Animals know more about survival than we give them credit for." Minutes passed. Long, dragging minutes filled with nothing but rain tapping the roof, Brutus's steady breathing, and Jenna's quiet sniffles. She kept her eyes locked on the cub's tiny chest, waiting for movement, a breath, anything. But the little chest stayed still. Mr. Turner rested a hand on Jenna's shoulder. "Sometimes nature decides for us," he said, voice gentle, "even when we don't want it to." Another minute crawled by, then another. Brutus didn't move. He didn't whine, didn't lift his head. He stayed perfectly still, his body curved around the cub like a protective wall. Heat gathered beneath him, rising slowly through the towels. His fur, thick and damp, began to steam slightly in the warm room. And then, almost too small to notice, the cub twitched. Jenna froze. "Did you see that?" No one answered. All three of them leaned closer. The cub's paw jerked again, barely more than a shiver, but real. His tiny ribs lifted in a slow, shallow breath. Then came a faint squeak, weak and broken, but alive enough to fill the entire room with hope. Brutus's ears shot up. He let out a soft, breathy bark, like someone exhaling relief after holding it far too long. His tail thumped once against the rug. "Well, I'll be," Dr. Hale said, eyes widening behind his foggy glasses. "That dog just reversed hypothermia with nothing but body heat and sheer stubbornness." Jenna wiped her tears with the back of her sleeve. He wouldn't let him go. "He saved him," the vet agreed. "Plain and simple." The cub let out another tiny sound, its paws kneading weakly against Brutus's fur. The big dog shifted just enough to curl even closer, as if trying to cradle the life he had fought so hard to pull from the flood. The storm outside finally began to fade, the thunder rolling farther and farther away across the valley. Lightning flickered only faintly now, illuminating the hills in pale flashes. Inside the Turner home, the warmth grew stronger, settling into a quiet, fragile peace. Jenna exhaled slowly, letting her shoulders drop for the first time that night. "He's gonna be okay," she whispered. For the first time since the storm began, hope didn't feel impossible. And Brutus, soaked, exhausted, still trembling slightly, kept his chin on the cub's back, guarding him as if nothing in the world, not even nature itself, could take the little lion away again. Morning sunlight pushed its way through the thinning clouds, laying soft stripes of gold across the Turner living room. The storm had left behind a world washed clean, muddy, battered, but quiet. And inside the house, the tiny mountain lion cub slept with its head resting on Brutus's foreleg. The big dog hadn't moved all night. His fur was dry now, puffed unevenly where Jenna had brushed out the worst of the mud. But the exhaustion in his eyes said everything. He'd stayed alert long after the rest of the family drifted into uneasy sleep. By sunrise, the cub was breathing steady, each rise of its small chest a little stronger than the one before. When it finally opened its eyes, pale blue, blinking slowly, it saw Brutus first. The cub let out a small chirp, then nudged its nose against the dog's neck. Brutus's tail thumped the floor exactly once, as if he were afraid of startling the fragile creature he'd nearly died saving. "He knows you saved him," Jenna whispered from the kitchen doorway. She held 2 mugs of hot coffee, steam curling upward. "Look at that. He won't even look at us first, only you." Brutus didn't respond, but he didn't need to. His whole posture softened as the cub crawled clumsily onto his paw, settling into the thick fur like it belonged there. If love had a shape in that moment, it looked like a giant dog afraid of thunderstorms and a cub who shouldn't have survived the night. Over the next 2 days, the cub grew stronger. Dr. Hale returned with formula, careful feeding instructions, and plenty of warnings. "Wild animals don't stay small for long," he reminded them. "When those instincts kick in, you'd better be ready. Even babies are born hunters." But warnings didn't stop Brutus's devotion. He followed the cub everywhere it waddled. If Jenna carried the cub to the bathroom to warm bottles, Brutus waited outside the door. If the cub mewed from the blanket-lined crate, Brutus dropped whatever he was doing, usually sleeping, to check on him. Even when the generator flickered again and thunder grumbled far away on the horizon, Brutus didn't hide this time. He stood guard. "He's changed," Mr. Turner said one evening as they watched Brutus and the cub nuzzle on the rug. "That storm shook something loose in him, maybe in all of us." But change has its own momentum. As the cub regained strength, so did its instincts. It started small, tugging harder on the towel during play, biting at Brutus's ear with sharp little teeth, stalking the dust mop with surprising focus. Brutus tolerated everything with saint-like patience, nudging the cub back when play got too rough. But each day the cub's coordination improved. Each day its paws landed a little firmer. Each day its eyes tracked movement a little faster. Then came the moment everyone felt coming but pretended not to notice. Jenna was refilling the cub's formula bowl when it lunged, not aggressively, not meaning harm, but with a sudden speed that belonged to a wild-born predator. Its tiny claws hooked the edge of Brutus's cheek, and the dog yelped, jerking back. A thin line of red appeared beneath his fur. "Oh no, Brutus!" Jenna dropped the bowl, rushing to him. The cub froze, ears flattened, unsure of what it had done. But Brutus didn't growl. Instead, he lowered his head, gently touching noses with the cub as if to reassure it. The gesture was tender, but Jenna felt her stomach sink. "That's what Dr. Hale meant," she whispered. "He's getting stronger, too strong." Mr. Turner cleaned the small scratch with antiseptic. Brutus barely flinched. The cub chirped, pacing in circles, confused by all the fuss. It was only being what nature designed it to be. That night, Jenna woke to a noise outside. Low, rolling, unmistakably wild. She sat up, heart thudding. The sound came again, drifting from the ridge behind the house. A mountain lion's call. She hurried to the window. The moon hung low and full, casting pale light over the slope. Something moved near the tree line. A large shape. Slow, silent, watching. Brutus rose from sleep at the same moment, head snapping toward the window. A rumble built in his chest, not fear this time, but warning. He planted himself between the cub and the door, as if instinctively shielding him. "Grandpa," Jenna whispered, "there's something out there." Mr. Turner joined her at the window, squinting into the moonlit dark. The silhouette on the ridge paused, tail twitching once before disappearing into the pines. "That could have been the mother," he said quietly, "or a territorial male. Either way, we've got trouble." Jenna looked at the cub, who was now pressed against Brutus's leg, tiny ears perked. "He heard it," she murmured. "He sure did," Mr. Turner replied. "And at this age, that sound could mean a reunion or a threat. We don't know which." Brutus didn't take his eyes off the window for a long time. His tail stayed stiff, his posture rigid. He understood danger even if he didn't understand species boundaries. The cub nuzzled against him, tremoring in a way that didn't seem like fear, more like recognition. The wild was calling, and the walls of the Turner home, warm and safe as they were, could only hold back nature for so long. The cub was growing fast, stronger every hour. Its claws were sharper, its leaps higher. All the signs Jenna didn't want to notice were there. But the most undeniable one came the next afternoon. As Brutus slept in a patch of sun, the cub crouched low, wiggled its hindquarters, and pounced hard. Brutus woke with a startled bark as the cub clamped onto his foreleg, not playfully this time, instinctively. Jenna hurried over, pulling the cub back. "No, sweetheart, easy, easy." But as she lifted him, the cub hissed, a tiny sound but filled with a wildness too old for its weeks of age. Brutus stood, shaking his paw, and watched the cub not with hurt, but with understanding. Something had shifted, something primal. "He's not a baby anymore," Jenna said softly, "not the way he was." "No," her grandfather agreed, "and he won't stay safe here for much longer. Not for him, not for us." He exhaled heavily, and not for Brutus. Jenna looked at the cub clinging to her sleeve, muscles coiled, eyes sharp as flint. Nature was waking up inside him, and once it fully arrived, nobody, not even Brutus, would be able to hold it back. The morning the rescue center arrived, the air carried that heavy stillness that always settles over Red Valley before the heat rises. The storm was long gone now, washed into the distance like a memory too painful to linger on. But its mark remained everywhere. Broken branches along the fence line, fresh grooves carved into the ravine, and a faint smell of wet clay still rising from the earth. Inside the Turner home, Brutus lay curled around the young mountain lion, who no longer looked fragile or helpless. His paws were bigger, his shoulders firmer, his movements quicker and sharper. The wild had filled him the way water fills a riverbed after rain. Jenna sat beside them on the rug, stroking the cub's back as it flicked its tail impatiently. "He knows something's happening," she whispered. "He can feel it." Brutus lifted his head at the sound of a vehicle grinding up the gravel drive. A white truck with the green emblem of the Nevada Wildlife Rehabilitation Center came into view. The dog stood instantly, placing himself between the cub and the front door. His entire body stiffened with alertness, as though the house itself had become foreign ground. Mr. Turner stepped inside from the porch, wiping his boots. "They're here?" he said softly. "Let's take this slow." A woman in a forest green jacket entered behind him, Hannah Myers, the lead rehabilitation officer. She carried a large, soft-sided carrier, the kind used for transporting big, wild kittens that would someday be released into the backcountry. Her face was gentle, but her eyes held the firm resolve of someone who'd done this many times before. "Morning," she said quietly, offering Brutus a respectful nod. "You must be the hero everyone keeps talking about." Brutus didn't move. His ears remained pinned forward, his body a silent wall. Jenna felt her throat tighten. "He doesn't understand," she murmured. "He thinks you're here to hurt him." "I know," Hannah said. "But this little guy can't stay. He's strong now. Too strong. And keeping a wild predator in a home, no matter how much love there is, won't end well for anyone." She hesitated. "You've given him a second chance. Now it's our turn to give him a future." Jenna swallowed hard. She understood. She really did. But even understanding didn't stop the ache beneath her ribs. When she reached for the cub, Brutus stepped sideways, blocking her. A low, heartbroken whine rumbled out of him, the same sound he'd made the night he dragged the cub out of the flood. The cub chirped softly, climbing over Brutus's leg like it expected another game. But then its eyes flashed toward the open carrier, ears flattening. "He's scared," Jenna whispered. "So is Brutus," Mr. Turner said. They tried again. This time, Brutus didn't growl. He never growled at his family. But he planted his paws so firmly, the rug bunched beneath them. He pressed his head down, nudging the cub back beneath his chest, as if trying to shield him from something only he could sense. "Buddy." Jenna knelt beside him, touching his cheek. "You did your job. You did more than any dog ever could. But he's not yours to keep." Brutus's breath shook. Hannah waited patiently, letting the moment settle. "Let him say goodbye," she said. "That matters." So they all stepped back and gave the dog space. Brutus lowered himself until he and the cub were nose to nose. The little mountain lion chirped again, batting softly at Brutus's jaw with newly sharpened paws. For a moment, it looked playful, just a baby wanting reassurance. But then it pressed its forehead to Brutus's, holding still. A gesture Jenna had never seen it do before. A gesture that felt almost knowing. Brutus answered with a slow lick across the cub's head. That was when the dog shifted. He stepped aside, not far, just enough, like he had finally accepted something his heart didn't want to understand. "It's time," Hannah said gently. Jenna picked up the cub. He squirmed, claws hooking onto her sleeve, but he didn't fight. She placed him into the carrier, adjusting the towel inside. Hannah zipped it halfway, allowing Brutus to lean close one last time. His nose brushed the cub's tiny paw. A soft thump of his tail betrayed everything he felt, but couldn't express. And then the zipper closed. The sound cracked something open inside the house. Brutus whimpered, backing up as the carrier was lifted. He paced the doorway as Hannah carried it outside. Jenna followed, wiping at her cheeks, feeling the weight of every step. The truck door shut. The engine growled. Brutus scratched desperately at the porch boards, whining in a way Jenna had never heard before, raw, pleading, helpless. The vehicle rolled down the driveway and disappeared around the bend. When the sound of the engine faded, the world fell painfully quiet. That night, Brutus lay in the empty crate where the cub once slept, his head on his paws, staring at nothing. Days passed, then weeks. The house returned to its usual rhythm: chores, ranch work, quiet meals. But something in Brutus had changed. He still protected the cattle, still followed Jenna's footsteps, still barked at the delivery truck. But sometimes, in the quiet hours before sunset, he would walk to the edge of the property and stare toward the distant ridge, ears pricked as though listening for something only memory could hear. 6 months later, Just before dusk, an envelope arrived. No letter, only a grainy photograph printed from a trail camera. Snow-dusted pines, a fallen log, and standing atop it, gaze proud and wild, was a young mountain lion with strong legs and sharp eyes. "He's thriving," Jenna whispered, tracing the photo with her thumb. "Really thriving." Brutus stared at the picture for a long time. Then, that very night, as the summer heat finally began to lift, a sound echoed from the dark ridge behind the house. Not a roar, not yet. Something softer, a young lion's call. Brutus lifted his head sharply, ears forward. Another flash of movement, a silhouette near the tree line, too big to be a fox, too graceful to be a coyote. It paused for only a second before slipping back into the wild brush. "Was that?" Jenna breathed. No one knew. Brutus walked to the porch edge, nose lifted to the wind, tail swaying once in a gentle arc. Not excitement, not fear, but recognition. A quiet, loyal acknowledgement. And then he lay down slowly, resting his chin over his paws, as peaceful as if the whole valley had finally answered him back.